I don't know.
Oh,
there it is.
Woo,
we're live.
Okay,
Yay.
let's see if I get my notification.
Let's see. I got my notification. Yep.
All right.
Yepper.
Okay, great. Like and then repost. Quote
Bingo,
post.
bango.
Used to call it a quote tweet, but now it's a quote post.
Quote post. Yep.
Listen. Okay, join us as we live stream.
I put that on my clipboard. So I actually I'm going to make a text expander snippet for that so that I don't have to do it. Hey everybody, what's happening? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I guess I should put that we're in pre-show here.
Yeah.
Because we're not quite at episode 537, but we're almost there. We're almost there.
Lots of good topics. Yeah, like what?
Like what? Well, you got to listen to find out. You got to tease it in, man.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. That's right.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss what?
And then thanks to this is what I really wanted to do. Thanks to our sponsor, Escaping Employment.
I like it.
The new book.
By Shannon Jean.
Upcoming book.
Can people pre-order it?
You sign up to get, you can't pre-order it yet, but you can sign up at escapingemployment.com and you get a free chapter and you get on the wait list, if you will.
Yep.
Your host at Shannon Jean. All right, there we go. I'm going to post that. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm ready whenever you are, Dave.
Well, now I'm putting a little thing in the show so that
okay, great.
You have
Be official.
a deal. Is it escapingemployment.com? Is that right?
It is.
All right. I'm just going to put that in the show notes. I mean, I know you could have done it later, but
domain was available. It just seems like the most obvious thing in the world, but it cost me $10, so it's great.
Dude, that's yeah.
I had lunch with a guy
far. I think I don't know that I want to do this math.
Yes.
But it would be interesting to do the math of how much each of my $10 domains has cost me.
Yeah,
right? Because once I register, I rarely let it go.
Me too. I had 400 at one time. And I forced
times 10 per year.
Correct. So $4,000. Yeah. I forced myself to winnow it down to about under 100.
Okay.
Very difficult.
To
give up. And I actually had a meeting. This is kind of the pre-show chat. I had a meeting with a guy a few weeks ago who paid $120,000 for a domain.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, pretty good. This guy also runs, he's just very entrepreneurial, owns a bunch of stuff, and a newsletter with almost 500,000 subscribers. And he thought it was just a great deal.
Yeah, no,
it's going to be great.
I don't know anybody that's paid that much. I know. Oh yeah, I do.
I have sold some for I guess it's 5 figures is the most. So I sold one for about $8,000 one time. So that covered my fees for 2 years.
Yeah,
for the other 400.
That's 4 figures.
Or 4 figures. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I've done some 4-figure domain sales and some domain trades.
Yeah.
A guy that worked for me years ago came to me and was like, "Hey, somebody's interested in this domain."
There you go.
And he's like, "But I can't figure out who it is."
Oh, that's important.
And it was like, okay, then that means it's someone that wants to hide their identity.
So charge more.
Charge more. Yeah, and he wound up getting about $60,000 for it.
Oh, that's terrific.
Which is great. Yeah, it was at the time it made a big difference in his life. Yeah. Which was great. And then when I had lunch with Alan Meckler and his attorney when we were trying to sell him deals on the web, or when he was interested in buying deals on the web, I should say, because he approached us. But they were talking about when they buy domains, his attorney, who didn't have the same level of notoriety that say Alan did, would buy them personally and then transfer them into the business so that they could avoid the I'm buying these on behalf of a public company tax.
Absolutely.
Yep. But I think he sold. Alan owned internet.com for a period of time.
Oh wow.
He sold when he sold it, I think he sold it for about $250.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Was about what he sold it for. I think that's what he said. He didn't tell me that day. I read it in an article somewhere, but yeah. So
That's killer.
Yep.
All right, you're ready to go?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm ready to go.
All right.
Let's start the show.
Oh, I got to change that. And here we go. Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't start the tape in the middle of me shouting.
Good idea.
And I can't start it with you talking either. Third time's the charm. Business Brain, episode 537 for Wednesday, April 3rd. Don't go to work unless it's Fun Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few ideas, we dissect them, we analyze them, we crunch them together so that we each get to tune our business brains every single episode. Our sponsor for this episode is escapingemployment.com. That's where you can go to get on the wait list for Shannon's upcoming book. He'll tell you more about that in a little bit. For now, back here in Durham, New Hampshire, after being in LA for Podcast Movement last week, I am Dave Hamilton.
And still out here in Northern California, I'm Shannon Jean. How are you, man?
I'm good. I am finished with my Q1 whirlwind of travel.
Oh, that's terrific.
Which is really good. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, it all was really valuable. Yeah. Sometimes you go to a conference and it's like, these really, everything that I did this quarter, all the travel was super, super valuable, super productive, which I feel good about. That's I get to control some of that, sure, and the rest of it is left up to other people, as to whether they're going to make things valuable for me. Then the part that's up to me is choosing and navigating how to approach these things, but there has to be value there to begin with, and everything that I did beat my expectations.
That's
which
awesome.
But it's fuel to get through it. Yep,
it's always good. There's a system to make it productive.
There is a system, yes, but there needs to be a little bit of there that you can sort of mine into a bigger thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you can't just show up. You got to have a plan.
Oh my gosh. Yes, and maybe that's part of it. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah.
But hey, I wanted to, before we get into our the meat of our topic today, I wanted to introduce this little intro here that I found with a guy who I like on X, and his first name is Etienne. I don't know if I can pronounce his last name. I'm going to post it here in the chat.
All right. Okay.
But, Duchesne, I think is his
Duchesne.
Last name.
Probably Etienne Duchesne.
Etienne Duchesne.
Sure.
And so he posted a comment about not sending quotes. This guy's he owns a company doing remote work for all kinds of people all over the place. I think it's worldwide, but not sending bids out and quotes just by email.
Oh.
And scheduling it he says here, not sending quotes by email and presenting them on Zoom has been the key to increasing our closing rate from 28% to 40%.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'll link this in the show notes at businessbrain.show. But a couple of highlights, and one that the main reason that really made me want to talk about this is, you get the small talk, you get to make a connection with person, you get to look at them, and you can read their reactions.
Sure.
You can use pacing and leading, which is a persuasion technique that if you don't know what that is, look it up.
Yep.
And you could, you can address objections, or answer questions as you're doing a presentation. You can have a PowerPoint that you're kind of walking through with just some minimal stuff on it to lead them down the road and see how things work.
Absolutely.
The real power, and why I called this the kill shot when I reposted this, is when someone comes in and says, "Oh, wow, that price isn't going to work. That's my budget. I don't have that in the budget." And Etienne's, comment is, "Oh, perfect. I understand that that's higher than what your budget allows." And here's the cream right here. What would have been the price at which you could have immediately accepted?
Yes.
So you want to, maybe you still don't get the work, but they're going to help guide you, and you can if you're close, you can adjust and say, okay, well, I tell you what, we could handle it this way if we don't do this, or if we did this. you still have options versus sending a quote an email and then getting an email back that says, sorry, that number doesn't work for us. And then trying to get them on the phone to talk with them.
To talk through.
Yeah.
That's, no, this makes sense. And I think there's a lot to unpack here. The first thing that I want to shine another light on is that phrase. You know me, I'm all about the magic phrases. And I actually have since I think the first business that I started a magic phrases list was Computer Nerds, and so that would have been in 1995. Because we realized you say something to a customer or a vendor or a staff member, whatever, and you realize, oh man, like I've tried to communicate that to another human. Like language is just a way of taking the thought that's in one brain and putting it in another, right?
Yes.
Like and it fails more often than it succeeds, right? You build 60% of the thought in the other person's brain, but to get 100% is rare.
Sure.
And so to me, that's what the magic phrases are. And this magic phrase, what would have been the price at which you could have immediately accepted? It's not what is the price that would get you to immediately accept now, because that's loaded, because then they have to commit. Like they're pre-committing. If they say, oh, it's $2,000 and you say, great, I'll do it for $2,000. That's what car dealers do, right? They get you to commit to a price. Then they say they'll go back.
You held your value. You're giving the bid based on what you know.
Yep.
This is the quote. I know.
But you're also not forcing the customer to commit to anything. Even though they are, right? This is this soft sell. What would have been and at which you could have. And so this is all what would have potentially have been in the past. And so it's a much softer landing for them.
Yes.
And then once they give you that number, $2,000, you say, well, how about if I do this for $2,000?
Yeah.
And now they've pre-committed in their own mind. Without actually committing.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about getting it back on the phone.
Right.
Maybe you meet in the middle if that works for you and your business. You haven't gone in and just, met their price or whatever they want. There's so many good things about it. I love the concept, and, you go up and read this thing. It's like a master class in how to present a quote or a bid.
I agree. So you were going to record your ad read for Escaping Employment. Do you want to just tell us about it live here on the show?
Sure. I mean, the Escaping Employment,
because we can edit this part out if you don't want to. Sure. Yeah.
Escaping Employment is basically the story of my life.
All right.
And the lessons I learned by, never working for anybody, or as I should say, not having one boss, having thousands of bosses, right?
Yes.
Which is just a better framework and a better way for me to succeed. And I just break that down into what worked for me, what lessons I learned, what didn't work, and try to capture people at different stages of their life. There's a section that says, hey, if you're just starting out and you're young, this is a great route you can go. Your risk, how much risk you want to take is different. If you're, already working for someone and doing something else, here's some topics you can take. And this concept of, breaking the chains of working for someone else, that's kind of what I did. And my goal is, or this ideal customer profile is either an aspirational new business owner or someone that's working, a W-2 employee that's just thinking about, wow, I really would love to go out, but I don't know. I need a roadmap, and this book can help you get there.
Amazing. Folks, go to escapingemployment.com and you can sign up, and you'll not only be able to pre-order the book when it comes available, but you will get to follow Shannon's journey in creating the book.
And you get a free chapter when you sign up and get on the wait list. And it's going to be good.
Amazing.
All good.
Amazing. I had an interesting experience this week. I know a lot of my stories start that way. Yep. This was with one of my kids. They found themselves not in a dire scenario, but in an unpleasant scenario financially, where they realized, okay, I gotta pay my taxes, and I misunderestimated how much I thought I was going to have to pay, and so
been there.
Yep, same, right? And so they said, and I'm like, well, do you have the money or do you need to like figure that out? They're like, no, I have the money, but it means I can't, if I'm responsible about this and I don't want to like sink myself deeper into, say, bad debt, like credit card debt, it means that I got to cancel this trip that I was going to take next month or in 2 months or whatever.
Sure.
And I was like, okay. And this was not a happy moment, right? As you might imagine.
Yeah.
And
especially for a young person that
correct.
is getting their head around this kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. A 20-something human. Yeah.
Yes.
And we've all been there, or if we haven't, you will be. Trust me. And, my dad instinct was, well, I could just write a check and solve this problem for you, but I knew that would actually not help. And my child also knew that wouldn't help. They weren't asking for that. They weren't even beating around the bush for that.
Yeah,
it was
good for them. Yeah.
Yes, right. Which I consider like great. It's the right thing. And they were like, nope, I need to make some changes. I need to figure out how to earn more. I know that I have time that I can leverage to do that. And I need to go and actually apply myself in that time. I'm not where I want to be at this point, et cetera, right? And it was like, and they said, I want to feel like I'm proud of myself. And right now I feel the opposite of that. And I said, well,
powerful statement right there.
That is a powerful statement. And I said, I know exactly how, I don't know exactly. I have felt similarly, but I'm proud because I'm like, proud's the wrong word. I'm actually excited because I know that those moments where you are faced with two options and you have to choose, and one of them is a much harder pill to swallow in the short term than the other, and you choose the difficult one, like that is a fundamental thing that will potentially pay dividends for the rest of your life. That feeling it's like, remember this feeling. And I don't even have to say it because when we're in those scenarios, we definitely are going to remember this feeling. It's painful. It's unpleasant, and you don't want to ever be there again. And that desire to never be in that position again. I was talking, how do I put that chip on my shoulder several weeks ago? What a way to put the chip on your shoulder, right? And that can fuel you for a very, very long time. And so I was like, oh man, this is great. Like they're already doing fine. It's not like they're destitute or like things are going well. It's just not as well as they would like to lead the life that they want to lead. It's like,
sure.
Amazing.
It's a good lesson in the sense.
It's great. Yeah.
Also just your kids, but also even like your people,
your
that work
employees,
for you.
right?
Yeah, your employees. And, I used to joke around, and it's kind of not a joke. It's often true. Managers, most of their solutions involve hiring more people because that solves an immediate problem. Hey, we can't get this work done. Or our quality dropped, or we're not getting the calls back. And so, I can remember that, okay, great. Let's say we can't afford to hire another employee. What are the other solutions? Where are we either going to cut something out or improve a process? Or it's much more difficult.
Way more difficult.
And it's, you don't get that instant gratification from taking a trip or bringing in another employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're like, okay, well, there's another expense that we've got to cover. And it's just like going to, credit card debt. Some employees are bad debt,
some employees are bad debt. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
yes.
that is it's a hard lesson, but the fact that they're thinking along those lines, and you help them just by
really just coaching.
Trying to figure it out. It is real. It's, good for them.
And letting them know it's okay. And letting all of us know, us, like it's okay to not always be in the best position. Like it's because it's going to happen. And so when you find yourself there all the time.
Yeah, right. The choices that you make, that are going to have repercussions. Because let's face it, it's not one or two decisions that we make that make us successful. It's thousands and thousands of decisions that you make every single day that, should I go here? Should I spend this money? Should I hire this person? Do I buy this new piece of equipment? Do we rent this bigger, location that we need? How we handle, those situations, they have repercussions for years down the road.
For years. Yeah. I was reminded in going through this with them, I was reminded of your story about how, in one afternoon, essentially, you made a decision that cost you $1 million.
It did.
And in that moment, in that moment, you said, this won't define me. Of course, we've unpacked that over the years on this show. And of course, it in a sense, it is part of what defines you because it helped fuel you in a positive way,
to succeed beyond that mistake,
to succeed,
to be able to talk about it. It took me, it took me 5 years to pay back the $1 million,
right?
But well beyond, it probably took me another 5 years to be able to talk about it and not have, PTSD.
Shame and
shame.
PTSD.
I was totally ashamed of it.
Yes,
but I was fueled, and I had great support by my spouse and everything.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a story guy, so I knew I couldn't just go bankrupt. I had to pay it back. I made, a mistake and bad decision and go. So at the time, I can, like I said, I can talk about it in a calm manner. At the time, it was panic. But as I bought myself more time and went through it, I realized this is going to have, yes, it can't be my defining moment of failure. What it had to become was my defining moment of success. And how once I actually paid the money back, I was like, dude, I'm unstoppable.
Now you have an extra $200K a year to spend. You already got this, like you've had to build the machine.
Yeah.
That was bigger than you needed it to be.
Correct. I had to grind all that much harder, and then I kept doing that, and it paid off. And just the lessons that you learn about, decisions
about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was very much reminded of you yesterday when I was sort of coaching them through this. I'm like, well, this is, and we've all had those moments. You don't necessarily need to lose or cost yourself $1 million to find that fuel.
Don't do that.
Certainly don't intentionally do that. And don't intentionally do any of this. You'll do it anyway. It'll happen anyway.
Some people spend their life building wealth, and other people spend their life building debt.
Yeah.
And to make it look like they have wealth. And if you can understand that and give up that quick gratification that all of us as humans want. I want it just as much as everybody else.
It's
or more
fundamental to our nature.
Yes. So if you can, like, I just used an approach that I wanted all these things. How do I get a company, build a business that could kick back that revenue so I can have those things?
I have built a big part of my fuel is delayed instant gratification. Like, I know that in this moment, wherever I was at any point, like, I couldn't just go out and buy a new drum set if I wanted it, or buy a new computer if I wanted it. Okay, I want to solve that so that I get to a point where I can do that.
Yep.
And there's value in this delayed instant gratification.
And the more you go through it, I would say, oftentimes when you get to that point where you can make the decision, you don't.
Of course not.
Because you've thought about it.
Because you've already been there.
And I would say one of the tricks we've used in building wealth is that to get the money or the appearance of money away from us at arm's length.
Yes.
So if we had something happen, we sold a company or we did some significant, revenue.
Had a revenue event. Yeah.
We would invest those funds so that our bank account per se didn't change much. It didn't look any different because I don't know about you, but when I look in there and I'm like, oh, wow, I could get a new truck versus, okay, it's just another day. We're pushing out, we're saving, doing these things, or we bought another piece of property and invested all this there.
Yeah.
that worked really well for us instead of having it just right in front because I like to.
Oh, if it's right in front, I'll spend it too.
I like to buy stuff too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. Because we know ourselves. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. If you have a story about delayed instant gratification or helping by not helping, or how you were helped by not being helped, let us know. Feedback at businessbrain.show. The mailbag is overflowing, Shannon. We're going to have to address this.
Next week
we've spent the first quarter not addressing the mailbag, and that's a mistake.
I think we need another giveaway too. I think that's always fun.
Oh, like it.
Let's give something away. We'll
okay.
Figure out some piece of tech that we can start talking about next week.
Yeah, delayed instant gratification for you, our listeners. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us again. Feedback at businessbrain.show. I think that's what I said earlier. Make sure to go check out escapingemployment.com and do us a favor. Keep living that charmed life. We'll see you on Friday. And we're out.
All right. Those of you 46 people, I think are all on X. So now Dave is going to do his magic with the knobs, which I always joke around that he's the guy that manages the knobs in our relationship and changes. And
that sounds inappropriate.
That's right. We've known each other long enough. Come on.
I guess not. I guess how inappropriate could it be? That's right.
Exactly. So while he's doing that, and that's, we were talking about this before the show. It's a key of having this process that allows us to finish, publish, and move on with our week. So we're not thinking about this show. This show has one of the best ROIs out of anything that I do because, number one, I love talking about these topics. I talk about them all the time. This is just normal for me. And two, we've built this system where it's just very straightforward. And I think the quality is good, but our focus really is content over editing all this stuff and trying to create these kinds of things and fading in, fading out. That doesn't bring more downloads or more listeners. We want to talk about.
Well, it might. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I did interview a guy on GigGab last week. The guy from 20,000 Hertz. I think I mentioned this.
He's dude, that's got a sound guy. Of course he's going to say.
Yeah, but the thing is, he and I both have the same final goal, which is making sure that the shows we deliver sound good to our audiences.
I agree.
And we talked about it's about respecting our audiences. And he pointed out, this didn't even dawn on me, but he pointed out, he's like, look at the beautiful setup you have there. You're backlit, things are clearly staged so that you look good if someone wants to watch you that way. And his setup looked good too. And yours does too. And it's about respect for the person who's choosing to spend their time with us.
But it's also...
But he's crazy. 300 hours.
Yeah, that's insane. But his stuff is great. I love it.
His stuff is great. No,
20,000 Hertz, if you've never listened to it, is a phenomenal.
I actually got to meet him in person last week. It was super awkward because, I had just had him on the show, and that was our first time even talking with each other was on the episode. And to be in his presence 3 days later, I said, I saw him from kind of across the hall. I'm like, hey, Dallas. I'm like, it's Dave Hamilton. He's like, hey. And he was he was trying to put it together. He's like, how do we know each other? Yeah. And I'm like, Dallas, we I understand why you're asking the question, but we just recorded.
Productive guy.
Business Brain or GigGab last week. He's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. He's like, it feels too soon to meet. I'm like, exactly right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that show.
For crying out loud.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Stupid.
Gonna have to record again?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no.
Just kidding. That's episode 537.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
This is our 10th year of recording this. And when I tell people that, their heads explode. They certainly...
We are in our 10th year. Yeah, it's true.
Once Dave is done fiddling with the knobs...
Dave is almost done fiddling with the knobs.
We're going to record episode 538.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Cheech and Chong. If you don't know who that is, you're going to find out. And I'm going to talk about...
I can't imagine people wouldn't know who Cheech and Chong are.
I don't know,
it's possible.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of young folks out there that don't have a clue. And we're also going to talk about the most powerful leverage in the world. And it's probably not what you think it is, but it's something that
I'm eager to learn.
Yeah. I'm a direct beneficiary of that. And
all right.
I'm looking forward to share it. And I'm going to find that because I talked about it.
All right. Yeah. Find it. And then I will.
I'm ready. Anytime you are. Yep. I got it.
Okay. Great. Then I will pop that over and yeah, here we go. Oh, gotta set that right there. Business Brain, episode 538 for Casual Friday, April 5th, Walk to Work Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few ideas, concepts, thoughts, we dissect them, we analyze them, we use them to tune our business brains so that every time we get together is valuable time together. A sponsor for this episode is Shannon's upcoming Escaping Employment book at escapingemployment.com. He'll tell you more about that in the episode here. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
I jumped in and stepped on Dave. It's only 10 years. I'm still working on this stuff. I'm still out here in Lafayette, California. I'm Shannon Jean, and happy Casual Friday.
Happy Casual Friday. I figured this would be a good day to talk about Cheech and Chong.
Oh. You can't get any more casual than that, dude.
You know, it sounds, that is their image, isn't it?
I understand. But they are businessmen, yes?
Correct.
Yep.
I saw, while I was at South by Southwest, I saw the world premiere of Cheech and Chong's last movie.
Oh.
Yep. They were there. They did a Q&A after the film. They showed up in this big, Cadillac that was smoking and had
Of course,
right. Yeah, right. All the thing. And the movie is a documentary about them and their career and their relationship and all of that stuff. Right. So it was an interesting thing. The way they started out was actually Tommy Chong was a musician. And I've actually met his daughter. His daughter winds up in New Hampshire. She's come to see some of the shows, the theater shows that I've done. But he realized that, touring, and I'm oversimplifying it here, but, touring with a band was a lot more of a logistical headache than it was touring as a comedy duo. Because as a comedy duo, you only need two people, and that's it. Yeah. And so there were more of them. They really started as kind of a clone of another comedy troupe, and there were more of them, and they, one by one, people sort of left, and then there were two. And so they started just doing their thing, but they weren't doing the style of comedy that we know them for.
Okay.
Until one night when they had written some weed jokes about cannabis and, all of that stuff.
Sure.
And they told them, and they got huge laughs. And they said in the movie, they're like, we're comedians. Most comedians at that time, and I think also at this time, it's not, I don't want to say most comedians, but it's not uncommon, like it is amongst musicians, to find people smoking cannabis. Like if you're going to be a musician and hang out with musicians, whether you choose to or not, you just know that it's going to be, it's going to be there. And the same is true in comedy, in the comedy world, according to them and others, but certainly according to them. But they said, we weren't smoking any more weed than anybody else was. We just were telling jokes about it. But also, we weren't high on stage. And nobody else was either. He's like, we would go do our job. And then afterwards, that's when we would enjoy
characters they played.
But they found this just became their niche. And obviously, then they said, we never had any idea that it was going to grow into this thing. This is, beyond anyone's wildest dreams, that this comedy duo that started talking about weed would become this brand, right? And it really
saw an ad for the Cheech and Chong gummies.
Yeah.
up on online. That
I love I like CBD a lot. It actually I wound up having it prescribed for me years ago.
Yeah.
The Cheech and Chong CBD gummies, which they don't make anymore, but maybe after they hear this episode they will.
Yeah,
they don't make the pure CBD gummies anymore. They had these CBD nano gummies that I loved. Those they were some of the best formulated CBD gummies that I ever found.
Interesting.
Yeah. But they stopped making them, I guess, because they weren't selling.
Yeah.
And so now they sell the ones that are like a blend of CBD and THC and and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting. And the movie has some great business lessons because they made some bad decisions, as often happens early in a career where it is, at least back in those days, you couldn't really self-promote and make it like you can now. Not that that's easy, but it's certainly more possible now because you can be your own distribution now.
You be a creator.
Yeah, but like we are here, like back then, especially when they did their first movie, it wasn't even their idea to do the movie, and they didn't get very much from the movie at all, even though the movie was earning millions, and so there's good business lessons in this movie.
And
in fact,
going to be streaming somewhere, or what are they going to
I would imagine so. I don't I'm looking to see if anybody picked it up yet.
Right.
I don't see any distribution partners listed on the South by Southwest page for it, but that doesn't mean anything at this point, especially a month later. They're Cheech and Chong. There's no doubt in my mind that they already had distribution for this movie before they started producing it. Yeah. So
sense.
Keep an eye out. It's called Cheech and Chong's Last Movie, but really fascinating story. And I would call this a business story movie more than anything else. I mean, if you're a fan of Cheech and Chong because of their work, you will find interesting moments or whatever, I would presume. But it's a story about two guys that created a business together.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Against all odds, kind of. Yeah. Which is, a typical story. But
good stuff, man.
But it was good. It was really, and the part that blew me away was the weed thing was just almost an accident.
Yeah,
almost,
really cool.
And
I love the alter ego thing, right? Where we're playing characters. We don't walk around with our smoke coming out of our car.
Right. I mean, they do when they're in the public eye. Yeah.
You got it.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was cool.
I love it.
Yeah. You want to tell us about escaping employment again, Shannon?
Let me talk about this, my upcoming book, Escaping Employment. It's basically the story of my life, but broken down into lessons, things that I've learned based from not working for anybody ever. And, we always joke around the show here that we are patently unemployable.
Yep.
That's certainly true in my case. But I break it down into just lessons that I learned along the way, great successes that I've had, and also terrific failures that I've had that have taught me a lot. This will be my fourth book. And the concept is just to show you how it can be done and at different stages. If you're just getting started, like out of school, and you don't want to work for anybody, I talk about that a lot. Or if you're an aspirational corporate person that wants to go out and start a business, I talk about, all different ways to do it and things that worked for me. If you go to escapingemployment.com, you can get on the wait list for the book, and you also get a free chapter when you enter your email address. And I'd love to get your feedback, and we'll keep you posted on how it goes. It's going to get published this year.
Amazing. Escapingemployment.com, folks. Go there now. Sign up on Shannon's wait list, and you'll get extra stuff along the way. Follow the journey.
You got it.
You mentioned a different kind of leverage to me, Shannon.
Yeah, I love the concept of leverage,
Of course.
And when you talk to people, it's really important in business, and there's so many different types of leverage, and like people think of the common ones like, I leverage with real estate, and as I build up equity, I leverage it somewhere else, or I leverage debt. I borrowed a bunch of money, got an SBA loan, and that leverage. So, but I think that the greatest leverage in the world is right at your fingertips, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And I'm a perfect example of how I've used it to leverage not a great skill set, especially when I first started.
Right.
Not an expert at anything. And not that, I'm a hard worker, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to cut corners and not really kill myself.
Yeah.
And I think, and so what I'll talk about, this thesis is that the most potent form of leveraging, it's made up of three things.
Okay.
It's made up of optimism, having that positive attitude
Yep.
all the time.
Persistent optimism.
Yeah. Just, you can't stop it.
Okay.
Being able to smile often, even in the face of adversity. That quick smile, it's a big deal, and I'll tell you why. And then maybe the most important part of this trifecta here is having the ability to lift other people up and help them.
Yes.
Right. Those three things. And I broke this down on a post on X. You can find me, just search for Shannon Jean, or we'll put it in the show notes too. And so the first one is it seems so basic, is your attitude and being an optimist. And I will tell you that I know it comes very natural to me, and I'm just used to it after all these years.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes. It takes effort, and you got to work at it. But when you're the positive person in any relationship, whether it's your business, a group, a peer group,
people want to be around. Well, people want to be around you, but if you're the negative person, people want a distance from you.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you're positive and you can have that framework, of course things go wrong, but you can also, I mean, we were just talking on the Wednesday show about the things I learned losing $1 million, right?
Yeah, right.
But I make that into a positive story now, because that's just my
persistent optimism.
Correct.
Yes.
It brings you better friends, better employees, better customers, better suppliers. It just naturally attracts for lack of a better phrase,
higher caliber.
Yeah, higher caliber. I was going to say higher quality, but that's kind of subjective. But and you can learn it. This is a teachable, learnable skill. It really just takes one decision that you're gonna do this and commit to it, and you'll miss it sometimes, but I mean, even because I'm the same way. Like I as you were going through these first one, I do that. Okay. Smile in the face of adversity. Oh my gosh. Like that's who I've been all the way through. I had to learn how to do it. Not all the way through, but I had to learn that like as a teenager, really. Yeah.
And then the ability, and I would say, and willingness to lift other people up, that I only really learned in the last, I'll say 10 years. And boy, howdy.
Oh man.
Has it been, it's huge, right? Yeah. And I've always wanted to help people like that. And I think that was enough of this to keep me, moderately successful, right?
Okay.
Right. My willingness, my interest, my eagerness in helping people fix things, right? To do things, whatever. Like you've got a problem, I'm going to help you with it. But that's not the same as lifting other people up. And as soon as I started to lift other people up, it was like,
it comes back to you.
I've been missing. It's exponential.
It is. And so like this is learnable, but it's also, like Dave said, you do have to be active with it. It needs to be front of mind. And
yes, you're going to do this.
Yeah. And that's if you may have to write down notes, like, Dave and I use these quartet things that go in between our keyboard and our monitor, and it's like a piece of glass, and you write notes on it.
Oh, I love the quartet pad.
So do I.
Yep.
Yeah. I often write, positive messages to myself. One of the most powerful ways to become an optimist, or to trick your brain to think more optimistic, is to replace a couple of words. Replace the word have with get. So instead of I have to go here, you get to go. Instead of I have to get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to catch a flight, it's like I get to get up at 5 a.m., man. It's beautiful in the morning.
Yep.
The sun's coming up, whatever it is. So, I can say it sounds easy, but try it for a while. Replace have to with get to. And just think
I
about
like
it.
this. I like these brain hacks. Replace.
It works. Write it down. Put it on a piece of paper.
To with get too. It's interesting because on Friday I was in LA. I was flying back that afternoon, last Friday, from Podcast Movement, and we always record Mac Geek Gab. Our sort of standing time slot is Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And I looked at my calendar and I'm like, I am going to be available at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Friday. And I'm also flying back that day, but I'm not flying back. Like my flight wasn't until 1 o'clock. I'm like, well, we're going to be done with the show. My flight wasn't until 4 p.m. Eastern. So I started reframing this day in my head. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to end the day on Eastern time because I'm going to be home. So why not just start my day on Eastern time? Now, I didn't end the prior day on Eastern time. So I got about 4 hours of sleep, mind you, before we did the show. I have video evidence that I did the show. I have no real memory of doing the show, but that's okay. It's fine. My co-host, I did a lot of prep and my co-host shouldered the load. And so it was great. Yeah. But I was like, at first looking at this, 2 weeks out, it was like, oh man, that's going to hurt. But as I
would think the same thing. Yeah.
But once I said, no, this makes sense, let's just do it. Once I got into that frame, and really even once I got to California and I set up my podcasting setup there, and I'm excited about this new app that I'm using to mix things, Sound Desk for the Mac. It's amazing. I got excited. I'm like, oh, we get to record the show remotely. I have this cool setup that I really like all of those things. It was like, I did. I woke up and I was kind of bleary-eyed and like, whoa, all right, yep, this is harder than I thought, but we're doing it. So here we are. But other than the, kind of obvious issues, I was positive, even with the obvious issues. I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, I got a story to tell, and I get to do this.
Yep. And language is a real important part of this. And
I agree.
Reframing language. And I'll give you a good example. Years ago, if you like the artist Beck, which I like a lot.
You've told this story. I love this story.
He has a song that's called Loser. And in that song, there are 3 words. The first word I'm not going to say because I can't let myself think this way. It's something, a loser. And, it has the word I am as part of that phrase. And I don't think that way. So when I sing that song, I replace the word, I'm with your.
Yep.
I always think I sing that song, you're a loser, baby. Not, I can't think the other way. It's my inner judge has been so fine-tuned over, 30 years of thinking this way that I just replace the words. Another powerful word that I use all the time is yet.
Yes. Adding yet to the end of a negative thought or I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do that yet.
That's
because
it.
I'm going to learn how to do it. Or, I'm not good at that yet. You will get better. So these are tricks, but these words are really powerful. You may have to say them to yourself thousands of times.
Oh, sure.
But eventually it just becomes natural. And
it becomes automatic.
Automatic.
Yeah. Like any other habit.
And it starts picking up people around you. And you're hanging out with more positive people because you have more in common with them because you speak a similar language.
Yes.
You smile more, which is very basic, but you really should do it because everybody is attracted to a big smile.
Oh, there's like endorphins that get released when you smile.
Yep.
It's a physical hack.
Yep. And so this last piece of this massive leverage that I've used my whole life is lifting up other people. You want to be the positive one in the group, especially when someone's telling you something they're dreaming about, like, I really want this, or I'm going to try this new thing. I'm going to start a business. You want to be the one that's like, that's incredible. I love hearing that. How can I help you?
It costs nothing to cheer someone else on, and it pays dividends.
Yeah. And most people don't do it.
That's why it pays dividends. It's also cost nothing to say please and thank you.
Yeah.
And yet I would say that pays even more dividends than raising other people up.
You got it.
It's crazy. Yep.
Yeah. So these 3 things, and I'm the walking example of how, because I did not have much. We started with nothing.
Yeah.
Built things up over time, built relationships. My whole success and building wealth has all been about people's relationship with me. All of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And these three things: helping them, smiling all the time, quick with a laugh, being an optimist. That it overcomes so many obstacles, and
well, it at
I would
least
encourage you to
opens,
try it.
like, it doesn't change what's possible versus what's not possible. What it does is it allows you to experience whether or not something is actually possible.
Well, I'm a believer. I firmly believe that reality is flexible.
Well, that's it.
And so
yeah.
that's what it does, is you're kind of pushing, and you're also.
Well, I think reality is flexible in the negative. There are things that you can, like, there is the finite result of, like the best outcome is always there.
Okay.
But if you convince yourself that the best outcome for you is 20 notches down from that, then you are correct. You have molded your reality.
Yeah.
Right?
It's that old phrase, whether you think you can or think you can't,
you're right.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of
yeah. Now, if I say, I know that if I, jump off of my deck, I'm going to land on the moon. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a physical reality that prevents that from coming to fruition. Right.
Yeah,
But beyond accepting that there are certain limitations of the world, find out what they are. Don't just assume. Push and push.
Widen your.
Yes.
They say if you want to be stable, you got to widen your stance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be lucky, you need to have like a big net and
catch
it's
more
very
things,
wide and stuff comes towards you. Yes. These three things are one of the ways that you make that net wider, because if somebody's thinking about an opportunity they want to give to someone, and the choice is between some person, grumpy curmudgeon, negative, and Shannon, who's happy, optimistic, super helpful. How can I help is my mantra. I know where it's coming. It's coming to me. And
listen, here
over and over and over.
Here's a thing, and I think perhaps by osmosis, this is how I learned to help lift other people up, is by hanging out with you. We talk every week, and I know that the curmudgeons, they're not my competition for the world's resources. Because the resources, if it's me versus the curmudgeons, the resources come to me. It's just how it is. I win every time. Not every time, but 80% of the time, more than I need to.
Yeah.
You are my competition in the world. Well, right? Because you're the same way. The good things come to you. Now, this isn't an accident, but I want the good things to come to me. So I gotta outdo you, and you gotta outdo me. Like, where
and the pie is plenty big.
It's plenty big.
Niche. I had a great call today with a guy that's in the hotel business that he was talking the same language about doing this and upgrading, helping out people. This, that, and I could just see it, and I was like, man, you are on your way to the moon. You're going to be so successful. Because
it's awesome.
Those traits that people,
they're attractive.
Miss. Yeah, and that's not to mitigate that there are bad days and there are bad things that happen to all of us.
And you still got to do the work.
You have to do the work, and sometimes you have to have that alter ego that shifts into, when I lost $1 million, I still had to go to work the next day and motivate my employees and find new suppliers and attract customers. And if that
more than the day before.
Yeah, more than the day before. So if that weight that was pushing down on me, I mean, I can remember, we used to throw these huge Halloween parties, and I found out about this problem, we'll call it, the day we were having this huge party.
Of course you did.
That night, I was like in my head, and I had all these people. We used to invite hundreds and hundreds, suppliers, customers who would come to this massive party. And I was walking around there going, how do I got to have a great time. I got to make sure my guests all have a great time. And I learned a lot about compartmentalizing.
Yeah, I bet you did.
out of necessity. So, but I would love to hear how you've used this, or, if you think I'm oversimplifying it, which of course I probably am.
Of course you are. Yes.
Feedback at businessbrain.show. We want to talk about your methods for success as well, so we can grow our business brain together. give us some information. Talk about your business. Tell us you want to come on the show. And
iterate with us. Like we're all tuning these, like you said, we're tuning our business brains together. So feedback at businessbrain.show. You can text us 567-274-6977. All that's at businessbrain.show. Keep living that charmed life. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Later. And we're out.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All you streamers, live streamers, crazy kids, thank you very much for checking in and following along. And these episodes, we have episode coming out Wednesday the 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
And Friday the 5th at 9 a.m. Pacific. So both of these episodes will come out at the respective times. And we'll check in with you next week.
Sweet. Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Later.
Later.